Arrest of longtime Canadian fugitive stuns Puerto Rico. Last week, phones across Puerto Rico began to ding as members of a private WhatsApp group dedicated to helping others in the U.S. territory stared at their screens in disbelief. 251. San Juan, Puerto Rico. Last week, phones across Puerto Rico began to ding as members of a private WhatsApp group dedicated to helping others in the U.S. territory stared at their screens in disbelief. The businessman they knew is administrator of that chat and is someone who organized philanthropic efforts such as a Christmas toy drive for needy children and renovations for an elementary school had just been arrested. Connor Vincent DeMonte, known as Johnny Williams in Puerto Rico, was allegedly a leader of a violent gang sought by Canadian authorities on charges including first-degree murder. He had been on the run for more than a decade. "It's like a Netflix story," said Antonio Torres, Chief Deputy U.S. Marshal for the District of Puerto Rico. Authorities don't know exactly when DeMonte, 44, arrived in Puerto Rico, but they believe he had been using the alias Johnny Williams in the island for at least several months. The 6'1" fugitive settled into a rural, eastern mountain community near El Yunque rainforest, living in a house in front of a street with no name in a working-class neighborhood, Torres said. Every month, DeMonte would accompany employees of a nonprofit organization known as Karma Honey Project and attend a farmer's market in the nearby city of Carolina, said a woman who lived in the same community as him and sold goods next to his stall. She declined to give her name out of fear. No one knew anything, she said, adding that she always was struck by his quiet demeanor. "We were surprised." DeMonte remains in federal prison in Puerto Rico as he awaits an extradition process. His public defense attorney declined comment, but she noted in a court hearing on Thursday that DeMonte, who has Canadian and Irish citizenship, requested that the consulates of those countries be notified. Those who met DeMonte said he never made any efforts to hide. He even met with Puerto Rico's agriculture secretary and a local senator and was invited to the governor's mansion last month for his role in trying to save honeybees after Hurricane Maria as part of his involvement with the Karma Honey Project, a nonprofit company created in February 2019. Its president, Candace Gallick, is a Miami entrepreneur and former model. Neither Gallick nor her company returned messages for comment. In its 2020 annual report, the most recent one available, the company stated that its volume of business did not exceed $3 million. Its balance sheet noted that it had no assets or liabilities, according to filings with Puerto Rico's Registry of Corporations and Entities. "The guy fooled us all," said a Puerto Rican businessman who asked that his name not be used out of fear. He said he met DeMonte in the early days of the pandemic after being added to his WhatsApp group, and that DeMonte was known as Johnny Teeth because his teeth were so white and straight. The businessman described DeMonte as a tremendous sales guy, who was very jovial. "It struck me that he didn't have Facebook or any of those things because he truly was a great networker," the businessman said, adding that DeMonte once called him asking if he could borrow a hammer since he was helping repair a school. When he was working on the Christmas toy drive, DeMonte messaged his WhatsApp group warning they were 500 presents short and that he was grinding to get donations as he noted that the prices went up 40% at the toy distributor warehouse. "Caught us off guard. We'll figure it out. Universe conspires," he wrote, adding 3 different star emojis. It's unclear why DeMonte chose Puerto Rico or if he knew anyone in the U.S. territory. He is accused in the killing of a rival gang member at a Vancouver strip mall in February 2009, at a time when that part of British Columbia was experiencing one of the worst gang violence outbreaks in its history, according to a police statement. DeMonte also is accused of conspiring to murder 2 alleged rival gang members known as the Bacon Brothers, according to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. The United Nations gang that DeMonte belongs to is considered one of the most powerful ones in British Columbia and is best known for exporting one of the most popular marijuana strains in the U.S. mainland, the BC Bud. At its height, the gang had an estimated 200 members, and they often sport tattoos of tigers, dragons and Chinese characters. The gang also imports firearms in Other drugs including cocaine, making millions of dollars a year, said Kieran McConnell, a criminal justice expert and professor at Kwantlen Polytechnic University in Surrey, British Columbia. Anyone thinking that Mr. DeMonte was a street corner hustler, it couldn't be further than the truth, he said in a phone interview. Mr. DeMonte was a fairly sophisticated individual. McConnell said it's highly unusual for fugitives to be on the run for as long as DeMonte and to successfully assimilate themselves into a community. DeMonte, whom police said has traveled to Spain and Asia and is associated with a drug network in Mexico, was last seen in the Vancouver area in January 2011. After that, he vanished until he reappeared in Puerto Rico more than a decade later. Torres, with the U.S. Marshals Service, said high-profile fugitives often assume the profile of a very wealthy person because they have the means. It doesn't raise any red flags, he said. It will draw attention, but not suspicion. They just act like a businessman. 3 weeks before federal agents arrested DeMonte, Torres said his agency finally had collected enough information to identify the fugitive, noting they never received any tips. As DeMonte drove through the popular tourist district of Isla Verde on February 25, the agents closed in. He acted surprised, Torres said, adding that he didn't resist arrest. DeMonte was alone, except for a 9mm at his side.